from Rajya Sabha TV. You're watching the news at 6 here at 6 p.m. where we get you the day's top developing stories. Let's start with the headlines. Just 2 days after the terror attack, Pakistan violates the ceasefire along the LOC in Uri. Army guns down 10 terrorists in an encounter foiling an infiltration bid. Home Minister Rajnath Singh reviews the security situation in Kashmir with top officials as the NIA registers a case to probe the Uri attack. Supreme Court directs Karnataka to release 6,000 cusecs of water daily to Tamil Nadu till the 27th of September. Gives both the states 3 days to file objections with the Cauvery Supervisory Committee. North Korea conducts ground tests of a new rocket engine to launch satellites. China and the US come together to target firms assisting Pyongyang's nuclear program. And as the uneasy Syrian truce ends, airstrikes resume in and around Aleppo, killing at least 32, including an attack on an UN aid convoy claiming 12 lives. Our top story and our focus continues on the Uri attack. The Prime Minister has convened a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security on Wednesday to discuss that attack. And earlier on Tuesday, high-level meetings and deliberations in the corridors of power continued. Home Minister Rajnath Singh once again reviewed the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir with top officials. Home Secretary Rajiv Mehrishi was also rushed to the valley to take stock of the ground situation. But even as India is mulling over options on how to corner Pakistan over the Uri attack, Pakistani troops violated ceasefire again along the LOC this afternoon. And an infiltration bid was also made by a group of militants in Uri. The Indian forces, however, foiled the bid and gunned down at least 10 militants.
Barely 2 days after the massive terror strike in Uri, Pakistani troops violated the ceasefire in the same sector of Kashmir, firing at Indian Army posts with small firearms. The firing happened for a brief while around midday. Meanwhile, the National Investigation Agency has registered a case to probe the Uri terror attack, taking over the investigation from the Jammu and Kashmir police. Apart from crucial evidence like the arms and ammunition recovered from the terrorists, the NIA team will also collect the DNA samples of the 4 terrorists suspected to belong to the Jaish-e-Mohammed. The agency is also expected to prepare a dossier and may make a formal request to Pakistan once the identity of the terrorists is ascertained. In Delhi, Home Minister Rajnath Singh once again reviewed the security situation in Kashmir with top officials, including National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar. Union Home Secretary Rajiv Mehrishi flew to Srinagar to assess the ground situation in the valley. He met Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti before reviewing the security situation with top officials from various security forces, police and intelligence agencies. As the government mulls options to isolate Pakistan over terror, pressure from the opposition parties continues to mount.
Already excuses are being trotted out, stories are being planted that commanders are advising against rash action. Whoever wants the government to take rash action, but the country wants the government to take action.
Brave soldiers are dying on a daily basis, and the Prime Minister, who made these promises to act against Pakistan, we have had in quick succession the death of our brave soldiers in Pathankot and then in Uri. And today he wants the nation to forget these lapses.
एक साल भी नहीं हुआ है पठानकोट के हमले को, वहाँ भी 7 जवान शहीद हो गए। उसके बाद भी यही बैठक चर्चा का दौर चलता रहा। जवाबी कार्रवाई की बात भी हो गई। उस वक्त भी हमने ये कहा था कि हम तय करेंगे जवाबी कार्रवाई कब करना है, वो तारीख, वो दिन हम तय करेंगे। लेकिन अब तो कोई तारीख का इंतजार है।
International condemnation for the Uri attack also continues. After the US, UK and Russia, Germany and Japan also extended support to India in its fight against terrorism.
Strongly condemn the terrorist attack on the Indian army base in Uri in the Jammu and Kashmir region. Our thoughts are with the families of the murdered soldiers and with the many people who have been injured, some seriously. Germany stands resolutely at India's side in the fight against terrorism. At the Indo-German counter-terrorism consultations, which will take place in a few days' time, we will further discuss the threats to our two countries' societies.
India is set to raise the deadly Uri attack at the 71st United Nations General Assembly, strongly emphasizing Pakistan's role in acts of terror in India. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, for more on this developing story, we're joined by Vishal Daya, correspondent from the newsroom. Vishal, today, of course, like we told our viewers, 10 militants were in fact neutralized by the security forces in an infiltration bid. Reports saying that there are 5 or 6 more perhaps, and there are, of course, combing operations going on there in Lachipura area of Uri sector. But with that CCS meet being called tomorrow, definitely the pressure building on the Modi government. What do we see?
Well, yes, you're right. Indeed, as far as this particular situation is concerned, it's becoming pretty tense and problematic, if I may use the word, for a Modi government, given the fact that, within 48 hours of that deadly attack, there has been ceasefire violation, there has been an attempt of infiltration, and then let's not forget the pressure which is building up again, on the government from not only the opposition but from its own allies as well within the government. The constituents of the NDA, specifically Shiv Sena, as we heard, has been asking constantly, including the opposition parties, for the government to take some strict action. Now, what our sources in the PMO are telling us that the Prime Minister has convened a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security tomorrow, although there was a high-level meeting yesterday, which was attended by both the Defence Minister, the Home Minister, as well as the Finance Minister. But the External Affairs Minister was not present in the meeting because she was supposed to leave for United Nations General Assembly, and it was not termed as a full-fledged Cabinet Committee on Security. Tomorrow, though, we are being told that a CCS will be, has been convened, and the Cabinet Committee on Security will then finally take account of the situation, including the recent, ceasefire violation by Pakistani army, as well as the infiltration bid, in which the encounter, we're being told, is still ongoing. And apart from reviewing the security situation, which the Home Minister has also been doing since the past 2 days, even today morning he held a very high-level meeting with the security officials. We're being told that the diplomatic options, as well as all other options which are on the table for the government to act in this particular moment, will be discussed threadbare in that CCS, and everyone is hoping that some sort of structured response will be coming in from the government post that CCS meeting tomorrow.
All right. And Vishal, very quickly, diplomatically, we definitely seem to be seeing a lot of countries, of course, coming in support, condemning the Uri attack, coming in support of India. We have, of course, seen Sushma Swaraj as well voicing the concerns there at the UNGA. But, on the ground, there has to be definitely more pressure on the forces, security forces, considering the fact that how Kashmir already is seeing an uneasy calm, and they would like to keep that situation in that manner. But at the same time, perhaps around the border, the tension is definitely palpable.
Well, yes, indeed. It has been 74 days since the Srinagar Valley has been under curfew. And, apart from that, this particular attack which happened on Sunday post that the security, situation was considered to be very fragile in South Kashmir. That's why, additional troops were put in. All the security forces in those areas were put on high alert. Even all those army or other, army bases or other important installations which are there in South Kashmir or along the line of control in that particular area, an additional attention has been given in by the security forces to ensure that there is no such untoward incident, and that seems to have been a correct measure as well, because we just are getting news of that infiltration bid by
yes.
Almost a dozen militants from across the border. So
yes.
obviously all these events will put some pressure on the security forces, but what remains very, very important right now, both from the domestic perspective as well as from the security point of view, is what kind of structured decision will the central government take? And that is something which I was saying earlier might become clear after that Cabinet Committee on Security meet, which our sources say the Prime Minister has convened for tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Vishal, for joining us with those details on that story. We'll come back to you for more. Meanwhile, curfew has been lifted across Kashmir except from 6 police station areas of Srinagar. However, restrictions on the assembly of people continues in the valley. Tuesday is the 74th day in a row when normal life has remained disrupted in the valley due to the separatist-sponsored strike. Shops, business establishments and petrol pumps continue to remain shut, while public transport also stayed off roads. Mobile internet services also remain suspended. Meanwhile, the martyrs of Sunday's terror attack in Uri were remembered across the country today. In Ahmedabad, people carried out candlelight vigils for the 18 martyred soldiers. In Tripura's Agartala as well, students held a silent march and a candlelight vigil.
यूरी में जो अटैक हुआ है, देशवासियों की एक ये इच्छा है और एक प्रतिक्रिया की इच्छा है। ये नहीं कह रहे कि प्रतिक्रिया ऐसी हो कि बिना सोची समझी हो, लेकिन प्रतिक्रिया अटैक के रूप में हो, डिप्लोमेसी के रूप में हो, पाकिस्तानी एक्टर्स, पाकिस्तानी प्रोडक्ट्स, पाकिस्तान के साथ बिजनेस के रूप में हो, सभी चीजों में पाकिस्तान से सहयोग का बहिष्कार हो।
मैं एक स्टूडेंट होने के नाते अपने देशवासियों से और अपने साथी सहपाठियों से यही प्रार्थना करती हूं कि हम
All right, we'll keep an eye out on developments from Kashmir. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has directed Karnataka to release 6,000 cusecs of Cauvery water to neighbouring Tamil Nadu on a daily basis starting Wednesday till the 27th of September. The Apex Court has also asked the centre to constitute a Cauvery Water Management Board within 4 weeks. Also, to ease out the tense atmosphere in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, the Apex Court has given 3 days to both the states to file their objections with the Cauvery Supervisory Committee. On Monday, the Cauvery Supervisory Committee had directed the Karnataka government to release 3,000 cusecs of water to Tamil Nadu for the next 10 days. The committee had also directed to meet once every month starting February 2017 till the Cauvery Management Board is formed.
Today, Supreme Court noting very seriously that the Union government has not taken any steps for the constitution of the Cauvery Water Management Board, had directed the Union government of India to constitute the Cauvery Water Management Board within a period of 4 weeks from today, from the date of the order. Till the next date of hearing, that is 27th of September, the government of Karnataka has to release 6,000 cusecs of water. These are the orders of the Supreme Court today, and it is a very positive development regarding the sharing of issues, sharing of river water between the states of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and we welcome the order of the Supreme Court.
And staying with the Supreme Court, it dismissed a PIL filed by National Lawyers Campaign for Judicial Transparency and Reforms, which sought a new mechanism for the appointment of judges in high courts and the Supreme Court. The Apex Court quashed the plea, stating that it cannot make constitutional changes, and also added that the current government is already preparing a memorandum of procedure on the same. The National Lawyers Campaign also alleged that the talented candidates among the vast majority of lawyers are never considered by the Collegium for selection as judges. The anti-corruption branch of the Delhi government has filed a case against Delhi Commission for Women Chief Swati Maliwal in connection with alleged irregularities in recruitment in the women's panel. Maliwal was questioned by the ACB for over 2 hours on Monday following a complaint filed by her predecessor Barkha Singh Shukla. In her complaint, Barkha Singh alleged that several supporters of the Aam Aadmi Party were given plum posts in the DCW without requisite credentials. The ACB had been probing the matter for the last 2 to 3 months, and based on Maliwal's questioning on Monday, it found that as many as 91 appointments were made without following due procedure. Maliwal reacted sharply after the case was registered, saying that it was an attempt to prevent the DCW from doing its duties.
दिल्ली महिला आयोग सवाल उठा रहा है और दिल्ली में कुछ ऐसे लोग हैं जिनको ये सवाल पसंद नहीं आ रहे हैं, जो पूरी कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि केंद्र सरकार और राज्य सरकार के बीच में डिफरेंसेस क्रिएट हो, जो कि ये 11 महीने की बच्चियां के रेप होते हैं तो ये होने दो। ये इसलिए हमारे ऊपर FIR दर्ज हुई है।
प्रिवेंशन ऑफ करप्शन एक्ट के तहत और IPC की धाराओं के तहत मुकदमा दर्ज किया है और उसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन जारी है।
पैसा है, ये टैक्स मनी है पब्लिक की, इसको इस तरह से आप नहीं लुटा सकते जिस तरह से आप आनंद फानन में अपने लोगों को जो भर्तियां की गई हैं वहाँ पे, ये सरासर गलत है और इसलिए मैंने कंप्लेंट की है। बाकी ACB जांच कर ही रही है वो।
India successfully test-fired the long-range surface-to-air missile Barak-8 today as part of its efforts to bolster its defense capability. The missile, which is the product of a joint venture between India and Israel, was test-fired from a mobile launcher at the integrated test range in Chandipur in Orissa. The 4.5-meter missile weighs around 3 tons and can carry a payload of 70 kilograms. The system also includes a multi-functional surveillance and threat alert radar for detection, tracking and guidance of the missile. Barak-8 was successfully test-fired twice on 30th of June and once on the 1st of July. Following the completion of trials, the tested missiles will be inducted in all the 3 defense services. And here are more updates from across the country in Nationwide. 18 people were killed in 72 hours after being struck by lightning in Chitrakoot district of Uttar Pradesh. Almost half a dozen people were also critically injured in the freak accident. Chitrakoot has been lashed by heavy rains over the past few days. Lightning strikes have also been reported from Rajapur, Mao and Cauvery areas of the district. At least 50 people are feared dead in a bus accident in Bihar's Madhubani district. The accident took place when the bus carrying 65 passengers fell into a large pond along the state highway. The accident site is 40 kilometers from the district headquarters. 32 bodies have been recovered so far. A search operation is underway to locate more bodies. A MiG-21 fighter jet made an emergency landing at the airport in Srinagar after developing a technical snag. Fire tenders were rushed to the runway to ensure that the aircraft did not catch fire. No one was hurt in the incident, but civilian flights to and from Srinagar were briefly delayed because of the emergency landing. Without a quick break here, we'll be back with the international news in a bit. Stay with us. Welcome back. International news now. And North Korea has reportedly carried out what it called a successful ground test of a new rocket engine to launch satellites. The test is seen as an indication that Pyongyang might soon launch another long-range rocket. The test was conducted amid global condemnation of the North's 5th nuclear test earlier this month. Both China and the US are now targeting the finances of the firms assisting North Korea's nuclear program. Here are more details.
North Korea has conducted a ground test of a new rocket engine to launch satellites, according to its state media. The test was reportedly carried out under the supervision of the country's leader, Kim Jong-un, at the Sohae Space Center. After supervising the test, Kim asked scientists and engineers to make preparations for a satellite launch as soon as possible on the basis of the successful test. It is the latest in a series of missile-related tests this year.
경의하는 김정은 동지께서 서해위성 발사장을 찾으시어 새용의 정지위성 운반 로켓형 대출력 발동기 지상분출 시험을 지도하시었습니다.
Meanwhile, the United States and China have agreed to step up cooperation at the UN to address the North's 5th and thought to be the country's most powerful nuclear test yet. US and Chinese officials have also started discussions on a possible UN sanctions resolution in response to North Korea's continued defiance. Chinese Foreign Ministry also said it is investigating firms suspected of providing financial assistance to North Korea's nuclear program.
我们一向认真履行执行安理会第2270号决议，认真地履行自己的房地产出口控制的国际义务。那么做出的努力呢，也是有目共睹的。至于你提到的有关企业，中国有关部门正在依法 对其经济犯罪等违法行为进行调查处理，并已于今日公布了相关的消息。
Pyongyang has been the target of global condemnation after conducting a nuclear test earlier this month and several missile tests since February. The North insists its space program is purely scientific in nature, but the US, South Korea and even China say the rocket launches are aimed at developing intercontinental ballistic missiles. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Violence resumed in Syria after a week-long fragile truce ended on Monday. Dozens of airstrikes in and around Aleppo killed at least 32 people, including 12 who were killed in an attack on a UN aid convoy. The UN has since suspended all aid convoys to Syria after the attack.
Just hours after a week-long truce ended, Syria plunged back into violence almost immediately. Dozens of airstrikes in and around Aleppo killed more than 30 people, also hitting a UN aid convoy. 18 of 31 lorries containing wheat, winter clothes and medical supplies were destroyed in the airstrike. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that strikes were carried out by Syrian or Russian planes.
The Russian and the regime helicopter target these trucks full of humanitarian aid, medicine and mattress for the Syrian Crescent. Here is based the warehouse of Syrian Crescent. Here is the warehouse of the Syrian Crescent. It's also targeted by the barrel bomb of the helicopter.
Following the attack, the United Nations has suspended all aid convoy movements in Syria, besides condemning the killing of people. Aid deliveries to besieged areas had been a key part of the cessation of hostilities deal brokered last week.
Yesterday's attack is a flagrant violation of the international humanitarian law, and it is unacceptable. Failing to protect humanitarian workers and structures might have serious repercussions on ongoing humanitarian operation in the country, hence depriving millions of people from aid essential to their survival.
The US has expressed outrage over the attack, saying it will reassess the future prospects of cooperation with Russia. US Secretary of State John Kerry also called on Russia to control Assad, but Russia says rebels attacked a government position in Aleppo, prompting a response.
Well, the Syrians didn't make the deal. The Russians made the agreement, so we need to see what the Russians say. But the important thing is the Russians need to control Assad, who evidently is indiscriminately bombing, including on humanitarian convoys.
From the beginning, the truce had been beset by difficulties and mutual accusations of violations, and now with no ceasefire in place, only more damage is expected. Moreover, failure of humanitarian aid reaching the besieged areas has only compounded the problems. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
And now let's get you some more international news updates in Global Buzz. Samsung Electronics has started replacing its Galaxy Note 7 phones in South Korea after it announced a recall of the smartphones due to faulty batteries that caused the phones to set on fire. Galaxy Note 7 users in South Korea said that they were pleased with Samsung's response. The schedule for restarting sales for the device elsewhere, including the US, will depend on the circumstances for the individual markets. The firm said new sales in Australia will resume in early October. At least 17 people were killed during clashes between police and protesters in Congo. 3 of the dead were police officers and 14 civilians. Congolese police fired shots and tear gas canisters to disperse the protesters. Opposition leaders had called on their supporters to take to the streets and protest amid mounting concerns that President Joseph Kabila plans to delay an election to hold on to power. 7 people were killed and 9 went missing in floods in southwest China that were triggered by recent torrential rains. The heavy rain that hit Panjihua city in the last 2 days have affected over 12,000 people. The government is evacuating the affected people and fixing any damage, but Met authorities say that the rains are expected to continue till Wednesday. Typhoon Malakas made landfall in southwestern Japan, bringing heavy rain that caused floods. It caused flight cancellations and prompted local authorities to issue evacuation advisories to more than 6 lakh residents. The typhoon is expected to head towards Tokyo before going out into the Pacific Ocean by early Wednesday morning. A Saudi Arabian Airlines plane was temporarily isolated after landing at Manila's Ninoy Aquino International Airport following a false hijack alarm. The plane was traveling from the Saudi city of Jeddah to Manila. The airport's general manager said the crew made a mistake and that a button was unintentionally pushed twice. However, earlier, a pilot on board had advised the airport's control tower that the plane was under threat. Sports now. In India's cricket governing body, BCCI, will hold its annual general meeting on Wednesday. The board is under pressure to implement several recommendations given by the Lodha panel, but it said that the meeting would concern only routine business. Some of the agenda for the meet are the election for board secretary, picking of the selection committee and approving the budget for the next calendar year. And here are some more updates from the world of sports in Sports Beat. India shooters bagged 6 medals on the second day of the ISSF Junior World Cup in Azerbaijan. India won a gold, 2 silver and 3 bronze medals to take their total tally to 13. The Indian Davis Cup team has been seeded second behind Kazakhstan in the Asia-Oceania Group 1 to be held next year. India, who were whitewashed by a formidable Spain in the World Group playoff tie last week, have been placed alongside Korea Republic, New Zealand, Uzbekistan, China and Chinese Taipei. In the latest leak of confidential documents of athletes, medical documents of Olympic champions Mo Farah, Rafael Nadal and Justin Rose were released by the Russian hacker group Fancy Bears. The World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA, has said that the criminal attack has recklessly exposed personal data of the athletes in an attempt to smear reputations. The release of data so far concerns 26 athletes. And that's all we have for you on the news at 6. Thanks so much for joining us.